just starting from when I arrived at the school, it was so kind of majestic looking to me. The buildings, I mean, were sturdy, but had this charm to them and this history about them. One of the stories that I heard was that at one point, the dorm houses had been used as an infirmary, you know, many, many, many moons ago. But it kind of felt like that. You know, the hallways were really long and narrow. And, you know, on each side there was room, and they were very small. So really you could fit a single bed, a little desk, and, you know, a window. And that was kind of creepy because, you know, to think that you were sleeping in an infirmary room where there might have been soldiers who would most likely have perished.
Hospitals. Chances are if you go to one today, you'll walk out in good shape. But 100 years ago, you were just as likely to be carried out in a box. Hi, I'm Lawrence Chow. Today we meet Sarah and Debbie. Debbie was in a hospital when she was paid a visit by a surprising guest. Sarah got ghostly confirmation that her dormitory used to be an infirmary. As a schoolgirl in Boston, Sarah heard plenty of rumors about ghosts. People said her dorm was haunted. However, it wasn't the spirits of long-dead students who kept her awake at night.
School was very intense. You know, we did our academics in the morning and our, you know, whatever art that we chose in the afternoon and in the evenings. So we'd be in class from 7:30 in the morning, and I could be in rehearsals till 10 o'clock at night. So the need for sleep was imperative. It just was one of those things that you looked forward to as the day was coming to an end. You looked forward to your sleep. So one night, I went to sleep. And for some reason, no reason I can give you, my eyes sort of went bing, open, and I turned and I looked at my clock and it said 3 a.m. And when I turned, there was a man sort of leaning out of the closet, staring directly at me. I blinked to think, you know, am I seeing things? But I kept blinking and he was still there. I could see his shoulders and his arms, and they were very broad and straight. And he had this sort of long face and long neck that literally went just up and around to the brim of a very wide, almost Quaker-looking hat. I was just terrified. I was just, you know, frozen in bed, kind of looking and not knowing what to do because there was somebody in my room. So I, you know, mustered up the courage to, you know, sort of move my hand over and pull on my light, and then looked again, and he was gone. And I was just so relieved at the time, but I was terrified. I mean, I suppose if I had blinked and he had gone away, I could have said, oh, it was my eyes playing tricks on me, or, you know, something like that. But he didn't go away. He didn't go away till I turned on the light. And I remember staying up for most of the night with the light on, trying to sleep, but, you know, obviously kind of looking over the covers and checking to see if I saw anything. So the next day, you know, I got up, I was tired, obviously, and went to class and had another really, really long day, and came back and got into bed, turned off the light, and I was out. Again, for no particular reason, my eyes just opened at 3 o'clock in the morning. And this time, to my horror, The figure that I had seen peering out of the closet was now staring directly at me from the end of my bed. And when I looked over, I saw a second one standing just outside of the closet. My eyes pop open at 3 o'clock in the morning. And the man who had been by my closet was now staring directly at me from the end of my bed, like right there. And when I looked over, I saw a second one standing just outside of the closet. And I froze again. This one was kind of different. He didn't have a hat on, but he was the same tall, like long face, long figure. But again, these weren't necessarily the things I was thinking about at the time. I just knew that what I was seeing was for real. They were big, they were men, and they were scary. You know, I jumped enough that I was able to again think, God, my light was right here, flicked on the light, and they were both gone. I do remember over those 2 nights losing a lot of sleep. The third night came along, and I was scared. I mean, I had seen what had happened the previous nights. And this was probably, even though there was some anticipation that I might see them, it was the most shocking night of all 3. And again, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up, and the man that had stood at the end of my bed was now directly beside me. When I looked up, he was looking right down at me. Literally, my arm was maybe 3 inches away from the figure. The guy who had come out of the closet was now at the end of my bed, and I glanced over and I could see a third one leaning out of the closet. He was just a little smaller of stature, and they were kind of looking over at me almost in a curious nature. I felt like I was being examined. I flipped on my light, and once again, they were gone. And I remember sitting in my bed almost in tears. I was just so frustrated at that point that, you know, what, it was a whole party of people gonna come in? You know, when was this ever gonna end? The next day, I decided to reposition my bed in so much that they couldn't sneak out of that closet anymore. I put my bed right in front of the closet. So if they were gonna mess with me, you know, I was gonna see them coming. And I was ticked at this point. So I remember looking directly into the closet before I went to bed and saying, that's it. This cannot happen anymore. You cannot come back. You cannot interrupt my sleep. Just go and don't come back. And, you know, very defiantly, I, you know, laid back down on my bed and I turned off my lights, and much to my surprise, they never came back. I think they came in because they were running through something that they had done in their lifetime. So to me, it seemed more like a ritual, and there was some curiosity to it. And I only say that because each of them started by peeking out of the closet. You know, maybe I was the patient. That's how I felt, like I was being the one looked over, like maybe I was the representation of somebody, some soldier or something that had passed, and they were giving me my last rites. It wasn't very fun for me because the fear was pretty intense, and these were big men in my room, and I was 17 years old. You know, it's one of those things that, you know, makes you afraid of the dark for a long time. Makes you afraid to turn off your light for a very, very long time.
Sarah says her visitors had no face, no features. She's not alone in her description. Our experts tell us many people report seeing ghosts without distinct facial features, or seeing only parts of an apparition. The ghost's legs may fade away, or the entire body may look transparent. Though the bodies of Sarah's ghosts may not be complete, they certainly were well dressed. Sarah reports seeing her ghosts 3 nights in a row at 3 a.m. Some people call that the witching hour. Others call it the twilight zone. But whatever you call it, Sarah was dead asleep every time she was awakened. Debbie Wall, on the other hand, was wide awake when she experienced her first ghostly encounter.
I went into hospital to have my child, and it was pretty fast, and I had him by around about noon. So I was to spend that night on the ward, and it was quiet. I had no particular feeling towards it. I was just kind of pleased to be alone so that I could rest. Until the night came and I started trying to go to sleep. I felt a little uneasy, as if I wasn't alone. And I just felt, as I was going to sleep, that there was some kind of movement around the bed. And I most definitely felt that it was not there for me. Well, I never liked staying on my own at night in hospitals of any kind. But that one was particularly creepy, but it was very old. It was an old memorial hospital. The architecture was just very old. It used to, be used for the troops. Right next to the hospital are old railway tracks that are no longer used. Any hospital gets a little creepy when you're there on your own at night,
Debbie had been a nurse in many English hospitals. She had a feel for their ins and outs, and this one felt creepy. But she still thought she'd get a good night's sleep. After all, she had a quick and normal delivery. However, she was about to experience a long and extraordinary night.
I was trying to go to sleep, and I became very aware that something was around me. There was the cot where Jacob, my youngest child, was sleeping, and I just felt like there was this movement around me, this kind of curiosity. And so I just couldn't seem to settle. I didn't hear anything at that point. It was just a feeling, and I most definitely felt that it was not there for me. I most definitely felt that there was interest in the baby. And it wasn't that I thought that anybody physical, a person, was taking an interest in the baby, because the nurse and midwife and everything were just, somewhere else down the corridor. And there was nobody else in the ward with me. So I just knew that this was some non-physical thing. So I tried to go back to sleep. And then I had these voices. I don't know what they were saying, if they were saying anything. It just sounded like voices to me, but they were incoherent. Then I just felt nervous. I felt nervous, like I shouldn't sleep, or I couldn't rest. And so I resigned myself that I was not going to go to sleep. So I went to check the baby's nappy, Jacob's nappy, and I changed his nappy. And then I walked across the ward to the other end of the ward where I washed my hands. And as I walked a couple of steps away from the wash basin, the faucet turned itself on full force. And so I was a little freaked out, went back, turned it off. I was kind of nervous, I would say, when I heard the tap go on. But I was kind of, I had that feeling of, I'm not imagining it, you know? And then I tried to go to sleep, and I didn't have much success. And I saw this young man. I opened my eyes, having not been able to settle, and I looked towards the cot. And I saw this young man, or what I would say was about a 15-year-old boy. This young boy sat at the foot of the bed. He was kind of dirty, and he had tatty clothes. He appeared to me to be a young worker, not of this era. And he had this bag. It was like a leather bag that you would expect to see an old-fashioned doctor sort of open and close and get their stuff out of, only it was dirty and tatty, and he was fiddling with some kind of tools or something. I felt like there was interest in the baby, and I don't know whether there was more than him there. Perhaps there were, you know, other spirits around too that were interested in the baby for some reason. He was, you know, just there for a few seconds and then just vanished. He didn't fade away or anything, he was just gone. Really didn't get any sleep until another lady joined me at about 5 in the morning. It is an old hospital, and if you looked out of the window on the ward, right next to the hospital are old, unused railway tracks. I'd have to say he was something to do with the railway. And he did look as if he would have been a worker on a railway track, because one would assume that, you know, in those days, you know, 15-year-old boys did work on the railway tracks. I think that there's more to the universe than meets the eye, and that just most of the time we can't perceive it because, you know, we're too busy thinking, worrying, analysing. Perhaps other people aren't quiet enough, you know, because I'm quite a quiet person. I'm quite a still person at times, and so I guess some people just can't access that.
Sarah and Debbie's stories both tell of classic residual hauntings. The ghosts in these stories seem to have suffered trauma that's left an imprint on the environment. Their actions play over and over in the same way. Residual hauntings are believed to feature footsteps, voices, and visual images, but not much interaction between the living and the dead. Debbie's ghost may have been a visitor interested in a baby born long ago, while Sarah's ghost could have been doctors checking on their long-ago patient. Sarah and Debbie both feel that the ghosts were attracted to them personally. But in residual haunting, it's believed those ghosts would act the same way no matter who was in the bed, for they are doomed to repeat their actions forever.
I sort of have an appreciation that, you know, that you shouldn't bring fear into these situations and that you're the most powerful person in any given situation.
It was tough. You know, once I sort of came to the conclusion of it, there was also a little bit of empowerment because I was able to ask them to leave, and they did leave. So it turned out okay, even though I'm still a little afraid of the dark.